All right, family. Spencer-Mack here. Want to just jump on here live real quick and share a concept as well as some of my experience that I've been going through recently. For those of you that don't know me, I am in the pursuit of true health and well-being in this life and to fulfill my highest potential to the best of my abilities and enjoy life to the fullest. And being a human, this requires having a healthy body, healthy mind, and healthy service in the world. This focus for right now is on a healthy body, which seems to be this funny, amazingly difficult paradox to obtain for the human. When we look at all of the necessary nutrients required to bring our bodies into a thriving state, it requires quite a diversity of plants. You would think it wouldn't be so difficult, yet there are a myriad of different diets. There are so many different approaches, people thriving on different approaches, people also doing horribly on the same approaches. And where I stand currently, most of you that follow me know that I've been following the OMAD raw protocol for the better part, almost 3.5 years now. And that entails fasting 23 hours a day, nutraceutical, nutritional supplementation, training twice a day. I've also previously, before that, been vegan for 2 years prior, vegetarian for 8 years before that. I've tried all sorts of diets, detoxes, cleanses, supplements, and substances to find that nutrient, to find that repletion, to find that vitality. And I know that I've brought my body to a good state. And I've been in relatively good health most of my life, but at the same time, I have a lot of challenges and difficulties that have brought me to strive so hard to resolve the issue of what it takes to nurture the human body. And as I said, you really think it shouldn't be so complex. And I'm finding it is my job to synthesize all of these different perspectives into one more easily digestible format, at least for myself. Something I really want to make clear for people out there who are doing OMAD, eating one meal a day, who are doing chronic intermittent fasting or cyclical fasting, where you fast every day, or who are doing the OMAD protocol. If you are going to fast regularly and practice caloric restriction, you need to supplement. And it has brought me to the experience of really having to understand all of the elements that are necessary for health, for the sustaining growth of the human body. And the OMAD protocol is made for people who come into it who are already in a good state of health. This is my experience, because if you come into it with a state of depletion, if you're missing some kind of nutrient, it's not going to necessarily replete that. Because even after I followed it to a T for 3 months straight, I still had blood sugar imbalances and perhaps insulin insensitivity. So I ended up going into a ketogenic diet. Now, perhaps this exacerbated other issues because my most recent difficulty really came on about a month ago, and I started to get swelling in my ankles. I was holding on to water, also known as edema, and feeling a lot of fatigue and not feeling like training and just feeling out of it, lack of clarity in my mind. And so it has been quite the educational ride this last month, because there are so many things that can cause edema. And I had multiple experiences with different minerals, specifically the electrolytes, solving that problem for me. The first one was potassium. made the swelling go away rapidly, but then it came back. And so then I learned about calcium. I already knew about magnesium, but brought that up to the next level. Phosphorus, even copper, all of these things can cause can cause edema. So finding that balance in yourself when you're coming into the world of health from a state of depletion, because I was raised on toaster strudels and cinnamon toast crunch. I had 28 cavities in my life. I have had my mineral stores depleted. And so I'm not coming into this at a stable baseline that I believe is required if you're going to enter into the OMAD diet just as is. So I'm in a situation now where I'm learning to formulate a nutritional approach to replete mineral status and any other deficiency that there may be. The ultimate ideal circumstance would be to be able to come into it and get really serious blood work done and see where your minerals, vitamin content, all of that stands. Because there's a lot of elements that go into running this machine and a lot of different toxicities or deficiencies that can cause these issues. It's an education, and I'm on the path to finding a way to simplify it. So the minerals are a very vital aspect of this, and I've even stepped back off of the diet and have been creating what in the medical society is known as an elemental diet, just living off of the elixir, as you call it in the almond diet, and then building that elixir to include things that it is lacking, such as potassium, phosphorus, which you would be getting if you're eating, high bean, high soy diet like almond recommends. So these elements are educational, and currently that is what I have been doing. It caused me to have to step back and build my elixir up to really dial in my elixir, and that is solely what I've been living on for the last 12 days now, and I'm feeling a lot better. The most recent mineral that I've been studying is phosphorus, which I find fascinating, because if you think of ATP, it's adenyl triphosphate. So phosphate is at the base of our energy currency of our body. And if you think about the cellular membrane, it is made up largely of phospholipids. Phosphate, if you think about fertilizers when we feed trees, phosphate is one of the main, you have NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. I was definitely lacking phosphorus and potassium. And then nitrogen, diving into all the amino acids. It's a whole nother story. So the addition of copper to my diet has also been very useful. I've felt the difference in adding that recently. I went and had a blood test about a month and a half ago and found I was anemic. And so anemia doesn't necessarily mean iron deficiency. It can mean copper deficiency as well. So ultimately, hopefully technology catches up to where blood tests for these types of, for testing for specific minerals can become more obtainable for the average person. Because you can get your basic blood test and say test your potassium and sodium, or your potassium and magnesium looks fine. But if you're just testing your serum, the blood, and not testing intracellular, you don't actually know what your potassium and magnesium stores are. Because a majority of your potassium is intracellular. A majority of the magnesium is intracellular. So, and that's a much more expensive test. So currently that is my approach right now. I'm working on developing an elemental diet that consists of all of the necessary nutrients, and it's been an educational process learning about all of them independently. Now trust me, I do love the idea of just going and eating off land and eating fresh fruits and fresh food and gardening and growing, and which I do. I've been cultivating and managing a farm for the last 5 years. I've been growing food for the last decade, and I understand what it takes to cultivate the soil to grow food, and I know what the food contains, and I know what my body needs to a large degree. But even living and subsisting on homegrown foods, living off of sprouts, living off of the land directly for extended periods of time, I was still in a state of depletion and of craving. And I know this is just a part of the journey. I'm really diving into more of the scientific, isolated side of things. And at some point, I'll find more of a balance, which I believe will be a really well dialed elixir and really healthy food. But right now, it seems that I am learning how to restore from a depleted state, and it's extremely educational. So I want to put that out there. If you are fasting, do an OMAD or almond style diet, really dial in your nutrition. Really dial in the necessary nutrients, because you will create a depletion if you adhere to the almond diet for a chronic period of time and you're trying to do it without supplementation. There's just no way to eat enough food in an hour and absorb everything you need to have all of the nutrients you need. So I want to share that concept. And let me check out some of these questions. Data. Adaptation to almond, how long does it take? It depends on your state. I have some friends who have just been able to jump into it. Depends on your storehouse and your current state of nutrition. It took me, after 3 months, I was still hella fatigued and tired. And then when I started doing my blood test, I found I was still pre-diabetic. So even though I was doing it to a T, and that's why I went ketogenic, and after about a month of going ketogenic, that healed my blood sugar issues, and now I find myself more in a balanced state. I'm on like 100 to 150 grams of carbs, is my sweet spot personally, where I can still train, replete glycogen, but not eat so much glucose that for me, I don't know if it's my genetics, because that's something that also needs to be brought to understanding. Like, I found myself deficient in potassium. Why hasn't Amin run into this issue himself? One thing I understand genetically speaking is that the Africoid people can retain salts, perhaps all minerals, more easily than a Caucasian, such as myself, because the Africoids have a tendency to have high blood pressure, hypertension. So there are genetic variances. So like I said, I'm really looking forward to the day when we can do this all with blood tests and be a lot more specific and precise with what we're doing. But right now, I'm working on cultivating something that is an overall works for everybody kind of situation. How come it won't let me scroll all the way up, guys? Just let me know it won't. Hey, brother, good to see you. Digestion issues on OMAD. I definitely did at different points, especially when you're just eating everything all at once, a giant meal in the evening. It forced me to simplify and to try and find the most easily digestible foods. And like I said, some people don't have any problem with it at all. But if you're coming into it with digestive issues or bacterial overgrowth, or like SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, seems to be the new trend, then digesting all of this food is going to throw you off. And then if you're doing it in the evening, it's going to throw your sleep off. And that just is a perpetual downhill thing. One way that they treat SIBO is an elemental diet. And the elemental diet is composed of the most easily digestible forms of these nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients that we need. So it can help the body get back to a state of nutrient, not surplus, but completion, perhaps, for about 2 months. How long it took you to finish your meal, 2,000 plus calories in an empty stomach? Yeah, tips on this. So that's the difference with almond and just straight OMAD. A lot of people are trying to get all of their nutrition out of food. And if you go on Chronometer, an excellent resource, CRONO meter, and put all your food in there, you can see where your nutrient profiles are at. And I've read a very broad study. It was 1,200 different athletes who all had to enter in their dietary protocols, and 90-something% of them were deficient in one or more nutrient. So Chronometer is very useful. And if you're doing OMAD and you're trying to do it all on whole foods, even if you're eating sprouts and the most nutrient-dense foods you can get, if you're putting it all in one meal, it's nearly impossible to get everything that you need and not have digestive upset by it, to actually be able to fit it in your gut. So that's why supplementation is key. Mastering what Amin calls the elixir, which has basically all the nutrients that you require to a large degree, as I'm finding I'm having to tweak it a little bit myself. So that can be key. And the idea, too, that's different with OMAD and Amin is comprehending the value of caloric restriction. We don't want 2,000 plus high in calories. It depends on your amount of exertion, your body mass index, your metabolism, but working towards lower caloric intake helps support longevity, increases autophagy, and all around the joy and energy of life. All right, I kind of remind you of Dan, man. Dan's the freaking man. He lives up the street. I want to hang out with that guy more. Seriously, he's a legend. What sets your nutritional requirements? Surely in long term it's your environment and not your genetics or anything else. I mean, genetics are going to affect your metabolism. They're going to affect, like I said specifically with sodium, how well you hold on or retain certain elements, how well you produce certain elements, like say your endogenous production of DHA can vary depending on your genetics. Environmental factors definitely have a big part with your nutrient. How much stress you're under will affect the requirements of your nutrition as well. But genetics definitely matter. And all we really have to run off of are studies of what are averages of what people need. And the World Health Organization sets them at two different variances. One is the RDA, which is your recommended daily allowance, which is basically you have to get at least that much or you're going to start going into a state of depletion. On the other end, they have what's called an upper limit or an upper tolerable limit, which is as much as you can take without causing any adverse side effects, any issues or toxicity. So currently, since I can't do the blood test that I want to do, I want to formulate a supplement that has the upper limits of everything that I need. It's my current approach right now, and work towards getting more blood tests. Yeah, let's see. 100 to 150 grams, sweet spot too. Right on, brother. It is the ticket, huh? Just enough. I found the difference when repleting glycogen versus your muscle glycogen versus your liver glycogen, glucose versus fructose. So having a higher percentage glucose is guaranteed to go more towards your muscle glycogen and help keep the liver depleted, which will help you go into ketosis faster. See how meditation is a great part of your life. How much per How much time? Yeah, meditation is central. It's pivotal. And even if you can't meditate, and even the word meditation has been just thrown around because most of us cannot meditate. In the yogas, there's an order of operations, and concentration, developing concentration comes before meditation, because you actually can't meditate until you're able to concentrate and remain focused on one thing. So I have a minimum to where I meditate every morning and every evening for at least 8 minutes. It helps me to set a timer, so I at least do that much. But I frequently in the evening after training will lay down and do a recumbent meditation that'll be half an hour or more. Sometimes in the middle of the day, most time that most people eat lunch, I'll lay down instead and do a recumbent meditation, getting in good posture and working on keeping the slate clear, keeping the mind empty. So it's been more recently upwards of an hour a day collectively out of all 3 sessions, but I set a minimum because it assures that I get that consistent practice, which is necessary, is to build that consistent practice of returning to that state of emptiness, of clarity, of clearing the slate. So yeah, gradually working to be able to have more and more time for it, because it's key, especially when you're trying to resolve these issues. All right, guys, so that's just what I want to jump on here for today, is really dialing in that nutrition. I'm building a list. Soon it'll be on my website. Right now, the things that I can get off of Amazon, I link here, and I have a list of the nutrients that go into my elemental elixir. If you are interested in those, the link helps me out when you use that, and it doesn't cost you anything, so it's a support to the channel and much appreciated. I'm always interested in those, if you find a truly balanced supplement right now, minerally speaking. I have one that I really dig. They're all chelated forms of minerals, which are the most absorbable. So also as well, any personal experience that other individuals are going through with this, and any questions for future videos are much appreciated. Lots of love, guys, and until next time, enjoy the journey.